Hey, you guys, this is Josh Vision. I'm here to bring to you my Vikings Season 4B Episode 13 review. The episode is entitled The Two Journeys. So, let's start off with the storyline with Ragnar and Ivar. So, in the previous episode, we seen pretty much that there was a big storm, and Ivar, Ragnar Company lost to it pretty much, looked like they were about to drown. Turns out they got shipwrecked on the coast of the kingdom of Wessex. So essentially, this kind of foreshadows that there will be a confrontation of some sorts in regards to Ragnar and King Egbert. But let's continue on with this particular storyline, and then I'll get to the other ones as this review continues. So, essentially, Ivar wakes up and Ragnar's eyes are open. Now, when you see his eyes are open, you kind of get the feeling that some people tend to die with their eyes open or some shit, or they're knocked unconscious. So I didn't quite know Ragnar's fate, and Ivar kept hitting him, say, "You alive? You're alive." And Ragnar's like, "What is it?" So Ragnar gets up, helps Ivar up a bit, and we see that there was some surviving members of the shipwreck. So after that, everyone's blaming Ragnar. The dude from the previous episode who blamed Ragnar for his brother and his sister dying, or sister-in-law dying during the settlement that Egbert destroyed. The one that said that pretty much the gods are not with Ragnar anymore. It's with his son Bjorn, and that he curses Ragnar and all that shit. And the only reason why he joined Ragnar in the first place, is essentially because Ragnar bribed him, paid him off. He was among many who were pissed at Ragnar, saying that it's his fault. It's like, and you just say something like, God, are you going to blame him for every little thing? It was a fucking shipwreck. Get over it. You guys are grown ass men. Stop bitching. But Ivar says, what do we do now, father? And Ragnar gets that look like, dude, I'm already dealing with these assholes. Now you're going to add more, flame to the fire. So, they go over they climb up this little cliff, and they observe the fact that Wessex soldiers are making their way towards the shipwreckage, and Ragnar and his people, they observe, they leave, and Ivar, his metal brace isn't working. Like, it seemed like it's all fucked up and shit. And Ragnar's like, listen, just take the fucking brace off, okay? And let's keep going. Just crawl. And I was like, I'm normal. And then Ragnar just gets frustrated. He turns Ivar. And he was like, listen, you're not normal. All right? Just deal with it. You're not normal. But once you accept that you're not normal, then that's when greatness will finally come out of you. And later in this storyline review, I think what Ragnar says to Ivar connects to what he meant by this scene. So the next scene we have Ragnar and Ivar. Well, yeah, I believe one of the men, or a few of the men, they would say, "Oh, now we got to carry the fucking cripple." And Ivar's like, "What the fuck?" You just say you're watching like, "Damn, these dudes are just dicks." Like, why? There was no need for that comment. And then we have one of many fun moments with Ragnar and Ivar, with Ragnar helping Ivar, putting his legs together. I believe he was tying something up for Ivar, and I was laughing. And Ragnar's like, "What are you laughing for?" Ivar was like saying, "Isn't it funny how the great King Ragnar is now being a nurse to the cripple?" And then Ragnar smiles, and then he just playfully just sort of hits Ivar's head. The next scene we have Ragnar and company traveling through the woods, and they hear singing. But before they hear singing, one of the guys speaks to Ragnar, saying, "We could wait out here, and at nighttime, possibly we could steal a boat. What do you think about that?" And Ragnar's like, "Well, that seems like the only logical option for us to do." So yeah, back to the singing girl. So they hear this girl singing in the forest, and she's coming closer and closer and closer to Ragnar and company. So a few of them are really getting ready to kill this girl. Ragnar's like, nah, chill. You know what I mean? But Ragnar, by his facial expression, He's like, you know what? I hope this girl don't come here because I don't think I can stop them if she enters this this area. You know what I mean? So eventually she sort of stops literally right before she gets into that area where they're at, and I believe she's picking mushrooms or some shit or flowers. Looked like it was flowers or something else, like mushrooms to me. And she just walks off back to where she came from. And Ragnar is just like, Jesus Christ, thank God, thank God. So after this, we have Ragnar, another scene with Ragnar and Ivar. And Ragnar says to Ivar, I didn't come here, you know what I mean, to go back, you know what I mean, to a Kattegat. I came here for a one-way trip, you know, and Ivar it seems like Ivar kind of understands what he's saying, but he doesn't quite understand. You know what I mean? Because Ragnar's like they said before, he's like, I only came here for a one-way trip. I didn't intend to go back. So I'm just wondering what Ivar's thinking. Okay, is he just like saying okay, but go think about it later? But anyways, Ragnar says to Ivar that it'll be smarter for us to pretty much for you and I to continue this journey off. And I was like, yeah, that'll be very smart. An old man, a cripple. You know what I mean? And Ragnars's like, listen, it would be smart because they wouldn't consider an old man or a cripple to be that much of a threat compared to these other people that's here with us. They would view it as a raiding party and thusly a threat. So later in the night, while everyone's sleeping, Ragnar and Ivar just kill off everybody, cutting throats. Ivar was especially vicious. There's one girl who tries to seduce Ivar with the possibility of sex, and Ivar smiled and just stabbed her straight through the thigh. I mean, the sternum. Seemed like he got off on that. But yeah, so, and after that, we had a few scenes. We had this really great scene with Ragnar and Ivar. They're in the bushes, and Ragnar says, I believe Ivar says to Ragnar, I bet you wish you killed me back when I was a baby. I'm pretty much a burden and all that. And Ragnar's like, you know what? I thought you was gonna be weak because you didn't have any legs. You know what I mean, due to the deformity of his legs. But he was like, I was wrong. Your legs makes you special. It gives you a strength that's you have even more strength than even your brothers. It's like being a blind person. Just because you're blind doesn't mean that you're hopeless. It helps strengthen the other senses of your body. And pretty much Ivar is kind of like really like taken aback by this. He even says to his father, like, I think this is the first time you ever admitted that you was wrong. And Ragnar's like, don't get too cocky. It'll be the last time. And once again, we have more scenes. They're traveling, and there's another great scene in which Ragnar and Ivar are talking about the gods. Ragnar say, "Why do you even believe in the gods?" And Ivar's like, "So you don't believe in the seer or the gods, all this stuff?" And Ragnar's like, "How do you know the gods have made you fortunate and all this stuff?" And Ivar's like, "Just look around. Look what we're doing. Look at the situation we're in. Obviously, the gods don't favor us." And he thought about it. I was like, you know what? I used to think that you were just some farmer who got lucky and you became a famous father. My famous father. But now, listening to what you've been saying, it's kind of interesting. I never really thought that way. I never thought you would think like that. I mean, I just pretty much say that. I just thought that you were religious, all this stuff, but there was more to Ragnar than he assumed. And we have this, once again, should I go into it? Yeah, might as well. We have Aethelwulf finding the banner of Ragnar Lothbrok, the Vikings, whatever, during the shipwreckage, and he shows this to King Egbert. And Egbert's like, so Ragnar has returned. And you could tell Egbert's been waiting on it. You could tell, you could probably say to himself, what took him so long to come here anyways. But you could tell he was visibly interested in the news of Ragnar's return. But he plays it off. He was saying, listen, because Aethelwulf's like, listen, Ragnar is the face that runs a place when it comes to the Vikings. He's their history. I mean, the Northmen. And we have to take him out. You know, if we are the sheep of the Lord, then he is the eternal wolf. We see Judith come in, and Judith's like, I don't mean to butt in, but is it true about the news of Ragnar? It seems like her and Aethelwulf still have an issue, but it doesn't seem like it's as contentious as it was before. And it's obvious that Egbert is still hitting that clearly, and once again showing a complete lack of respect for his son Aethelwulf. But then again, that's not new. So the final scene when it comes to the whole Ivar, Ragnar, Egbert storyline is we have Ragnar and Ivar finally making it to Wessex, with Ragnar carrying Ivar the majority of the way. And Ragnar says to Ivar, listen, if you're smart, don't act like a cripple. They're going to do some things to me, but you're going to have to hold it in and just deal with it. And I was like, yeah, this is such a great plan. I'm going to have to watch my father get his ass beat. That's what you expect me to do? And Ragnar said, Ragnar's pretty much saying there's a method to my madness, essentially. And Ivar Stegen said, you know what? I think you brought me here for a reason. And Ragnar takes Ivar's knife away, and father and son make their way to Wessex. So that's the end of that storyline. Let's get straight to the Bien and Rollo, Vikser, Floki, Mediterranean storyline. So we have Bien, Floki, and Helga, and Vikser, along with Harold and Finehair, King Finehair and Halfdan. They made it to Francia. So Bien mentions this to Floki. He's like, we're here in Francia. And I was mentioned before in the previous episodes, Rollo and Gisla have been ruling Francia with an iron hand over the last couple years. You know, their military might's even better than back when Ragnar and Rollo fought. So Vikser says to Bien, which is interesting because Bien never speaks. I mean, Vikser never speaks. He's always quiet. So when he says something, it's always something that's very monumental or important. So he asks Bien, do you intend to negotiate with Uncle Rollo? And Bien has that smirk on his face, like, yeah. And he looks at Floki, and Floki's kind of like, I understand what we have to do, but fuck him. Fuck Rollo, he's a traitor. And we see Bien, Helga, Floki, Finehair, Halfdan, and Vikser, they come to Rollo's, to meet up with Rollo and Gisla. And before that scene, we see Rollo seeing the ships and Rollo smiling. So I interpreted it as that he was waiting for this and that he wants to form some type of alliance with them. That's what my first initial thoughts. So Rollo speaks with Bien. He's like, listen, I can't apologize, or I won't apologize. What's done is done. The gods have spoken. And he introduces, before that, he says, oh, so I see you brought Floki, Helga, and Vikser. And it's kind of crazy that Rollo literally can remember Vikser, because I swear it's been at least 14 years or 15 years since he's seen Vikser. And it seemed like out of Ragnar's children, especially during when Jarl Borg invaded Kattegat, that Vikser and Rollo had a very close relationship. He was always seen playing with Vikser more so than Ube and Sigurd. So that was interesting how he noticed Vikser after all these years. So Rollo introduces his fam, his two sons and his daughters, and we have this funny scene in which his eldest son sticks his tongue out at Floki, and that even makes Floki chuckle. And Vikser puts out a smirk. But Gisla asks, okay, what's the point of you guys being here? Bien tries to take out his map. As soon as he goes down, the soldiers, they take out their spears. Rollo's like, chill. And Bien takes out the Mediterranean map. He shows it to Rollo. And he mentions Rollo, I need safe passage for my fleet. Can you allow me that? And Rollo's like, okay, what's in return for me? For us, for my people. And Floki's like, you know what's a return for you, Rolo? You fucking traitor. Us not attacking your religious cities and towns with our fleets of ships. That's what's in it for you. And Rolo just smiles like, same old Floki. And Rolo's like, can I see that map? Can I see that map? And Bjorn's like, no. And he just snatches it before Bjorn can even say anything. And as soon as he snatches that map, Bjorn takes out his knife, and the soldiers literally have everybody with spears to their throats. At one point, I think one soldier had a spear to Victor's throat and a knife in Victor's back. So, as they're going away, Floki's like, listen, we don't you think we would have some type of plan just in case you does some shit like this? We have 60 ships waiting outside for us. Don't you think at some point they're gonna try to come for us? So after this, we have this interesting jail scene. You have King Finehair and his brother bitching at Bjorn. Excuse me, saying that it was stupid for Bjorn to do something like this. Then he learned from years ago, probably around a decade ago, when Rolo betrayed his people. They said Rolo's stupid. Rolo's a traitor. How can you fall for this? We thought the gods were with you. We're making the same mistake that your father did. And instead of us, and how they should have attacked the other Frankish towns and cities, because at least if they would have died like Vikings, like true Vikings, instead of like fucking sheep. And what's great about this scene is that Bjorn is extremely calm. In a way, he's sitting in the stance, of his father, Ragnar, how Ragnar used to do back through season 1 and a little bit of season 4A, in which he's in that pose, he's thinking, he's quiet, because if that was young Bjorn would have lost his temper. Probably would have swung at them dudes, but you could tell at this point that he's definitely grown into being just like his father, and maybe by the end of this Mediterranean deal, he'll be even better than his father, So Bjorn just gets up, he looks out the window, and the soldiers come and get Bjorn. Because, like Bjorn mentioned before, I believe Bjorn knew his uncle well enough that he knew his uncle doesn't hate him. You know what I mean? He doesn't hate the Vikings. It's sort of like Rolo said before. The deal with Frakia benefited him. It wasn't out of like any ill will. Like you said before, it was the will of the gods. So Bjorn speaks with Rolo, and I believe Rolo mentions that he had a librarian from Paris come, to him to the Normandy coast, because that's where his castle is, and he's saying that was pretty much the reason for the delay. So Rolo is essentially the translator for Bjorn and the librarian from Paris. So pretty much the librarian says that Bjorn only has like a small fragment of the map. The map's obviously a part of the Roman Empire, but the Paris guy brought in like the full deal, like the Roman Empire during the Zenith era. And he mentions to Bjorn that pretty much that he has to go through Spain. Spain is the main target. That it's a Muslim caliphate there, and before you even get there, there's an area where it's like really stormy and really horrible seas. And Bjorn's like, okay, I got it. Okay, that's chill. That's good. And he tells Rolo, he's like, is there no other way for me to go? Do I really have to come through this coast? Is there a possible way? And Rolo's like, no, this is the only way you can get there. And Bjorn's kind of frustrated. He's like, will you let my fleet go unmolested? And Rolo's like, nah, bro. Nah, nephew. Nah. And Bjorn's so pissed off. And Rolo's like, not if you don't let me. He said, I'll let you go, your fleet go unmolested if you let me come with you. So, turns out, later in the episode, that Gisela's pissed off about this. She said, you know what? You're not a Viking anymore. You're a Christian. You renounced your ways. And she was saying to Rolo, if I found out any of our kids had any Viking, I would kill them and then kill myself. And rightfully, that made Rolo feel some type of way. And Rolo grabs Gisela by the throat like, bitch, I wish you would. And Rolo mentions to her, he's like, listen, I understand where you're coming from, and you're correct about everything, but I grew up this way, and as much as I try to deny it, I can't deny a part of myself that is still Viking. And Giza pretty much tells Rolo, she lays it down to him, listen, whether you live or die, it may not even matter because I might just drop you. You won't have a home to go to. And it turns out Rolo didn't feel that was that much of a threat because Rolo, we see the next scene, Rolo is sailing with Bjorn and his fellow Viking brethren. And then it was like this really interesting test that happened later in which they essentially try to drown Rolo. Obviously, this is Bjorn's way of pretty much showing his Vikings that he's not letting his uncle off, that Rolo has to pay some type of consequence for what he did to his people. And at first, you thought Bjorn was going to kill him, but it didn't turn out that way. He told them to pull him up, and Rolo, at first, he's motionless, but it turns out he survived. And he's laughing while he cuts off, while he's coughing up water. It seemed like Floki at first was kind of like, yeah, let him drown. And then when he pulled him up, when they pulled him up and Bjorn looked at Floki had that look like, okay, you appeased me. He suffered a bit. I wish he would have died, but whatever. So, yeah, that was pretty much the last of that storyline. So let's get to the whole Lagertha Aslog storyline. We have Aslog having a vision of some type of invasion happening. And the next scene, we have Lagertha speaking with Astrid. And Lagertha says that she plans to basically take over Kattegat, that Queen Aslog is not fit to rule. And Astrid's like, okay, what about Ragnar's sons? And Lagertha's like, you mean the ones born of a witch? And Astrid's like, who cares? It doesn't matter. They're still the sons of Ragnar. And Lagertha's like, you know what? Bien, Vixert, and Ivar are gone. So what are you talking about? And Astrid's like, yeah, you're trying to be slick. But Ube and Sigurd are still there. And they won't just allow you to kill their mother or take the throne away without some type of fight that might lead you potentially to possibly kill them. So what are you going to do? And then we see Lagertha just smile. The next scene we have Torvi and Margaret. We find out that Margaret pretty much, I believe Torvi says that Margaret is pretty much sleeping with all the sons of Ragnar. And Margaret mentions something about Ivar, except Ivar. I don't quite remember if she went full detail about him being impotent or something like that. But it's whatever. It wasn't really that important. But what she does later is. So, Torvi is told by Lagertha, essentially, to prepare yourself and get ready. And Torvi also mentions how her son Gruthrum's doing. Now, Guthrum apparently is a very big deal, especially what I could foresee later in the season, because he was the one that fought with King Alfred. And essentially, who fought with King Alfred in 878, all that stuff. But, yeah, the next scene we have Ube and Sigurd pretty much going to Hedeby, and they're having dinner with Lagertha and Astrid. And what's interesting about this is the fact that even Ube and Sigurd are wondering why are they even there. Lagertha mentions something about the mission of Bjorn, whatever, Vixert. It's interesting that Ube has a toast to the safety of Bjorn and Vizert, but not his father or Ivar. I just found that really interesting. I'm like, well, damn, if you're gonna, bless for the safe return of Bjorn and Vixert, why not your other brother and your fucking father? But whatever. So Astrid says to Sigurd, I believe, she says, isn't it, how many of there are you? And Sigurd's like, who knows? And Lagertha brings up the fact that Margaret says she's in love with both you and Ube. And, maybe you guys should try to decide who should be with her, or maybe y'all could share her. So, when I saw this, I'm like, damn. Because let's be honest here, Lagertha knows Ube, at least, is very much like his father. And she knows how Ragnar is a very lustful and opportunist kind of guy. So I pretty much think that was her plan because she knows Rhino so much. They was married, all this stuff, that she assumed that Ube's signal was gonna fall for this trap, which they did. You have Astrid pretty much tells Ube while he's in the middle of penetration, you know, pretty much says, "I'm sorry," and we see Ube and Sigurd being locked up in a jail. So essentially, we have Lagatha and Astrid and their army. They're attacking from the ground, and Lagatha gives a signal, and they go straight to Kattegat. And everything is going ham. It's a fucking brawl going on. You even have some of Lagatha's other some of Lagatha's other soldiers going into Kattegat via boat. So it's like a maelstrom going on. And then we see up Torvi. She's on one of the top of the roofs, and she's leading another brigade, just shooting off arrows at the people. Lagatha at one point says, "Stop it. These are my people. My beef and my issue is with Aslog." And what's interesting about this is that Aslog, you know how that sword is very important. The sword, dating back to season 2, the sword pretty much anoints whoever has it as being the true ruler, you know. And with that being the case, it was very important that you have Aslog with her little, I guess you could say, uh, protectors, whatever. They're side by side with her as she proceeds to walk towards Lagatha, Astrid, and Lagatha's army. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen, between Lagatha and Aslog, because someone's got to go. You know what I mean? Someone has to go. And I believe it's going to be Aslog, but I don't think Aslog's going to go out like a bitch. I think she's going to go out swinging. But, thank you guys for listening, watching my video. Like the video if you can, subscribe to my channel, write some comments down below. And once again, this is your boy Josh Vision, and have an awesome day.